What's up? What's happening? Welcome into Foxboro Rush. George Balekji here with Kasey Hudson. Got a packed show for you guys today, talking offensive line, AFC playoff picture. Aaron Rodgers possibly playing his last season, and as always, we'll get to the mailbag with you guys as well. Case, what's up? What's happening? How we doing today?
You know, it's a long Wednesday, but I'm thankful to be able to get ready to close it out, hanging out with you, catching up on some things when it comes to football, because it's just that spotty portion of the season, but plenty to keep eyes on. So.
Yeah, plenty of slow time right now, but I like the look ahead we have, talking some AFC playoff picture, who the wild card teams are, who the division winners are. And it is something, when you really map it out, you look at the AFC and you go, all right, the same teams are going to win. You expected Chiefs to win their division.
Yeah. But
then you're reminded of the Chargers and the Broncos making that step forward. And then you have the Ravens winning their division. And then you remember the Bengals are there. And while the AFC East, you know, the Bills should win it, we all have the Patriots taking a big step forward. A lot of good teams could be left out in the AFC playoff picture. We'll get into all that. But we talk with any success about the Patriots. And I kept saying it when we're previewing any position group. We bring up the wide receivers or running backs, Drake Maye. I keep bringing up that the offensive line is a key piece for this entire roster.
Massive.
If they do well, unlocks the whole offense, it protects Drake Maye, it allows them to run the ball. It just allows the offense to be functional. It has to be the bare minimum, because we haven't seen that in about 2-3 years here in New England. So let's start with looking at the offensive line. We know the new faces are Will Campbell, who they drafted.
Yep.
Graham Bradbury, who they signed. Jared Wilson could play center too, who they drafted. Mike Godwin, who's staying at right guard. Then there's Morgan Moses at right tackle. Left guard could be Layden Robinson or Cole Strange as well. There's a lot of question marks. We haven't seen him put the pads on yet.
Yep.
When you look at the offensive line, how do you feel about it with the outlook for the Patriots?
I knew you were going to hit me with this question. Can I go with like a grade? I feel like a grade is probably where
However you want to assess it.
Hang out in the murky areas. When I initially look at it and the way that you broke it down, I'm vibing with a C. I'm seeing a C here.
I mean, they've been an F.
Right.
Last year, they were literally
the worst offensive line in the entire
They didn't even qualify for grades.
League.
The only reason they got a grade is because they showed up to class every day, but they just wasted their time every Sunday.
They got participation points.
Yeah.
Yikes. So
barely participated, but yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a way to put it.
So they get attendance points. And with that being said, you know, a C can almost feel extremely optimistic, but we put that in context because they being fans, wanted them to draft well. Will Campbell comes in, regardless of some of the minute criticisms, there's more confidence behind what he'll be able to do. Then you've got some veterans in the mix there. Then we heard from Morgan Moses throughout the early OTAs and all that stuff, and you're hearing the leadership that can kind of be voiced on this offensive line, which helps them take that next step. So the bottom line for me is there are glimmers of talent throughout this offensive line, but sometimes it's not rocket science. You just kind of need those blue-collar guys that can follow instruction and get the job done. And I watched what a kind of semi-fractured offensive line looked like in Tampa Bay when they had guys who needed to shift over to different positions on the offensive line and just do enough of their job to make it work. Then you go back to what the coaching is going to look like and how they're going to be able to vocalize this and help this offensive line just kind of take a step in the right direction. So that's where I lean with a C between Will Campbell. Of course, there's concerns around Cole Strange, but I think there's probably enough sprinkles of leadership to just help them out a little bit. Yeah,
the questions around Cole Strange, it's not on ability. It's whether he still has his athleticism that he can retain after having a knee injury. And then it's also the question marks, too, of, okay, what do you get at the left tackle and right tackle spot? Because I love the draft pick of Will Campbell. Worst offensive line in football, took the best offensive lineman.
Yes.
Really simple, and they can find a spot where he sticks. You want him, what I project him to be is that plug, stopgap type left tackle. If he can get through the season being okay, being good, being average, awesome. Then you hit on that
Still
draft
level
pick.
up.
Yep, and then you kick him inside to guard maybe eventually, and he's an all-pro guy there. That's where he should be. That's what he profiles as, and a lot of evaluators say. But when you look at the right tackle spot, Morgan Moses is year 11 in the league, been in it a long time, finished last season playing through his sprained MCL, had off-season surgery. At his age, with the amount of snaps in football he's played, where he's always been consistent with a lot of football, how does he look? Is he even ready 100% to start the season? Or is it delving back into what we saw last season, where it was Caden Wallace, DeMontre Jacobs, where one of the things you watch for to start the game is not how the offense is, it's who are the 5 starting offensive linemen. That was the game every week last season. They couldn't be healthy. And also, they just didn't play good. So guys were getting benched left and right, and you understood why. They're trying 5 guys to play.
I will say this, though, before we move on. A lot of that movement, when you have, you know, I know Gerard Mayo, right?
Yeah.
I'm saying his name correct. Thank you. I'm drawing a blank here. But when you have a new coach come in,
yeah.
and because of like the expectation that was on his shoulders, I feel like there was a little bit of a lack of patience with letting guys kind of like feel out certain roles or kind of like figure out their identity within that role. And you have to get certain reps in order to actually be impactful, especially in football, especially in the trenches. So just wanted to add that in the sense of like now they can find a little bit more stability because of that whole overhead topic, you hope, of identity and all these things. But I think they just kept encourage a little bit of patience for these guys to kind of solidify what their role is going to be or how they can be versatile if that's what's expected of them.
I mean, this upcoming season will be the 5th different offensive line coach in the last 5 seasons.
That's hectic.
Go along with the play callers, the OCs, the systems and everything. With Gerard Mayo stepping in, it was Scott Peters' first time in that role, really taking over an offensive line. Alex Van Pelt, first time running an entire offense. That's tough, but they were injured. Again, like Cole Strange just never being healthy until the end of the season.
Yeah.
They were relying a lot on rookies like Layden Robinson, who drafted should have been a guy you sit and develop as a pass rusher, but really good run blocker, thrust into a role. City So, Antonio Mafi, some of them not being with the team by the end of the season or being started, bench started again. This offensive line, with the offseason, because of the upside I see in a Will Campbell, a Jared Wilson, and with a Mike Onwenu and Layden Robinson, what they can be too in this role, I give this, it's not much better of a grade, but I'll give it like a C+ of an offseason. My outlook for this offensive line is still, I like this ceiling. If they tap into the ceiling, it's going to be great.
Okay.
I have so much skepticism around them getting to that and reaching the potential. Because again, Will Campbell, you see everything that's done and all the football that's been played. There could be stopgap guys, break glass in case of emergency left tackles with his measurables. But like long-term good starters in the NFL, that is not what you can have with a sub 80-inch wingspan. That's what he has. Eventually goes to left guard. You need him to play left tackle this season. And there really is no resolution at the left tackle spot. So just like any position group, if healthy, if relatively healthy, they have the depth. They do not have depth for the Patriots. They need 5 guys up front to work out, or else it's another doomed offensive season.
That is a very scary reality, especially once you mentioned the number of injuries that were dealt with just last year. So then what grade do you give this offensive line?
If I had to go, I know like the upside, the offseason, I'd give it a C+. It's just like putting it in the average. I'll just ride with that in any way you want to put it. If you want to give them a C, you want a scale 1 to 10, you want to put them out of 5 right down the middle. It's just and if they're average, like that's an upgrade. They were 31st in pass block win rate last season, 32nd in run block win rate. Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett constantly under pressure, constantly getting hit and sacked. Ramondre Stevenson, no room to run. So again, they were the worst.
Yeah.
So if they become average, like it's just simply going to be such a sight for sore eyes because of how bad this offense has been the last 3 seasons and never getting on track. It would be a return to normality by an NFL type standards for this team, and that's what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing being the fact that like a lot of success is going to be contingent on what the offensive line can do, because what you don't want and what I don't want to see this upcoming season is that Drake Maye is going into his sophomore year. Everybody's getting familiar with a new system, or some guys getting reacquainted with a new system. And now he's expected to make too many risky plays and movements because of how the offensive line is breaking down in front of him. And I only point that out because a lot of people were singing the praises of C.J. Stroud and what he did his rookie year, and they wanted him to take that next step. And then he comes in with the capability of taking that next step and then has an offensive line that just completely falls apart in front of him, on top of the injury cycle that went through his wide receiving room, and it just hinders any potential that this team can have, even though they still made it farther than predicted when the injuries impacted them. But we're talking about a team that doesn't really have the biggest and loudest wide receiving room on top of it. So you have to be able to protect Drake Maye, and you have to be able to protect what run game might be relied on as he is finding his footing in his sophomore year.
Yeah, it's a matter of exactly finding a run game opens up the playbook. It's what Josh McDaniels wants.
Yep.
What I am excited though is with this offensive line, the coaching room, that is led by Doug Marrone, who's been coaching football since the early 90s, maybe late 80s, I believe. I've been in the NFL since 2002, a former head coach, right? Like before color television was even around, he was leading offensive line rooms. Jason Hutangling comes over from the Tennessee days, where we saw guys like Taylor Lewan have really good seasons. Now there he was an assistant offensive line coach. Robert Kugler is one of the few assistants they kept from the previous regime. But to see 3 coaches, one of those being Doug Marrone with all the experience he has, in that room, that's what they need. It's like the resources and the coaching to develop. There hasn't been development on the offensive line, and that's what the Patriots need at the basis of it. And there is the veteran leadership. I mean, all my question marks about the right side and their health, it's still Mike Onwenu, who's been in the league for 5-6 years, and it's Morgan Moses, who's been in the league for over a decade as well. those are the voices you need in that room for them to get right and to help lead these guys. And then you know what you get with Will Campbell, where he naturally is an alpha and a leader, not just for the offensive line, but the offense and the team as a whole.
Yeah, he's got that captainship upon him. And like, back to Moses for just a second, because coming off of that injury, I think I already expressed this once before, but just to continue where my headspace is at on him, I think he can be impactful outside of just the vocality. Like, MCL surgery is a bit different these days, and I know that you look at it closely because he's in the trenches and he's got the most taxing, if not physical, let's say, task at hand for himself. But my brother went through it his freshman year at FSU, and like, we were really, really nervous as to what that was going to look like, and it wasn't all that impactful. If anything, he still felt equally as strong, if not stronger. And these guys know how to weather their body that much more. And then when you talk about, say his last name again so I don't butcher
Mike
it.
Onwenu?
Yep. That guy. No, but and not to be funny about it, you look at an offensive line and kind of in parallel to Cole Strange, some of the things that popped up with him, again, OTAs, minicamp, all the things, light work, is like you're getting false starts out of him. You're kind of getting these penalties, and you don't want to carry that into a regular season. So with Mike Onwenu, you got a guy who's like not very penalized, very smart, can help with that like mental strategy that needs to take place on offensive line, because again, I've seen offensive lines where all of that hindrance and the amount of yardage that you lose just because you're not focused in, or you're making these small mistakes that all come back to circling to mental. Donovan Smith being one of them. It can hurt you in ways. So just kind of eliminating the small things that can hinder a team like this helps, and that's where the veterans will be coming in very, very strongly for this team.
I mean, Grant Bradbury, the free agency signing at center, longtime vet too, where this offensive line got a lot older, but it's guiding voices. And someone like Mike Onwenu is fairly young too, but a vet at this point where he's still in the long-term plan. Him, Will Campbell, Jared Wilson. Those are three key pieces they want to have on this offensive line starting for the next 2 to 3 years. Semblance of them in certain spots. It's the rest. We'll see how it falls together. And the big thing too is, again, the question mark and what it has to be watching, and like one of the most pivotal parts every game for fans to watch for, how does Will Campbell fare at left tackle? I understand everyone goes, it's arm length. It's not that. It's the wingspan. The wingspan is sub 80 inch. And we've seen guys like a Joe Thuney start at left tackle for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and in their playoff run because it was absolutely needed, because Kingsley Suamataia just did not work out on that left side. Now he's being kicked in a guard. But as a long-term play, Joe Thuney's not a left tackle. As a long-term play, guys with sub 80-inch wingspans are not left tackles in the NFL. If Will Campbell is, and he's good and he works out, he is like 1 percentile of a hit on a draft pick, and that's amazing. But that is the likelihood. The other 99%, like he would have to be the outlier of outliers if he works out at that spot. If he could just be good and okay and average as this offensive line, that would be huge. Hold it down until there is a long-term solution. And the goal of an offensive line isn't draft the best left tackle and he becomes the best left tackle. Because if the other 4 guys to his right stink, then it's not a good offensive line. It's getting the 5 guys that can see, think, move together, and play together as one, because that's what an offensive line has to do.
And not everybody has to be a superstar name. Sometimes you get the best out of those, again, blue-collar players. So heading into the upcoming season, ideally, what does this offensive line look for you? Because there's signings taking place. There's other guys that can kind of be eyed before things kick off in the upcoming season.
I think the simple one, to me, it's Will Campbell, left tackle. I think Layden Robinson making progress, and he's healthy. I would go with him at left guard. Grant Bradbury, Jared Wilson at center. It's whoever shines more in pads at that point. Mike Onwenu, right guard. It has to be Morgan Moses at right tackle. It's why you signed him. It's why you gave him a lot of guaranteed money. It's why you brought him in. What about for you for starting 5 up front?
I don't think I could veer away from what you said, but it's just because when we did the NFL draft show, it was everything that you broke down in terms of their success within that position, and just kind of expressing which players you can rely on to be versatile and which players need to just stick to their role. You don't want to get too crafty. That's why I stick by the fact of, like, there's certain blue collar players where just put them in that slot, let things work out, and continue to roll through. If
a Cole Strange is good and he gives you something, awesome, and that gives you a little more time for Layden Robinson to big.
Enough. I don't think the expectation is that high. Health being one. And then not having any sort of like those false starts and any of those issues that you're going to hinder your team on. Like, I'm big on that, just because when you look at the totality of penalty yards that certain offensive lines take and the positioning that it took them off of the field, the opportunities it removed them from, it's extremely frustrating. So going from the worst offensive line last year, knowing how that did play a role and have an impact, I just need the minimum of that.
If you think about, I mean, why they bring in a Mike Vrabel, big part he gets is you win all those one-possession games. The one-possession games come down to how many penalties are against you, how many penalties are in your favor, and how well do you execute. Because you have to win, within the margins. This was a team we never saw win within the margins last season. Shoot themselves in the foot continually, just be undisciplined and be sloppy. Clean it up front. Whoever the 5 guys are, and wherever they're playing, however the cards fall and all of that. Just if they play together, play smart, play clean, that's what helps out this offense a lot. All right, we'll take a quick break here on Foxboro Rush. When we're back, we'll talk AFC playoff picture. Where do the Chiefs fall? Do the Patriots make it? We'll make some picks, predict division winners, wild cards as well, and who is out in the AFC. All that and more coming up on Foxboro Rush. Welcome back to Foxboro Rush. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson. All right, we alluded to it. We're going to talk some AFC playoff predictions. Super early. It's the downtime in the NFL, and this is when it gets fun. So we know how last year fell together. Chiefs were the 1 seed, Bills the 2, Ravens the 3, Texans were the 4. So all of those were the divisional winners. The wild card teams, the Chargers, the Steelers, the Broncos.
Yep.
First off, it's hard to see any of these teams not making it back to the playoffs. Chiefs are the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans.
Right.
Kings of their division, also really good football teams, and all 4 of them with elite quarterbacks or potential to be elite, like a C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
Chargers got better, Broncos got better, and have an elite defense. The Steelers made the playoffs, dealing with what they had last year at quarterback between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Now they have Aaron Rodgers. To me, they're the first team to push out. But when you look back at last year's playoffs, it's like, all right, who doesn't make it from this group? We'll go through that. We'll pick it out. It's just hard when you look at how this fell together. I'm excited to get into this because also think of the teams that didn't. Jaguars, Bengals, the Raiders got better, have an actual quarterback in Geno Smith. The Dolphins, if Tua can be healthy. And the Patriots, who I tabbed to have 9 to 10 wins, and to me, that's a playoff berth. So we're going to see who is out that gets in, and of course, who is in that doesn't make it at all.
I know. Do you have a hot take on who you think is not, like, off the rip, you don't think is not going to make it?
No, I don't think it's hot, but it's the Steelers.
Okay,
I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers.
Let's weed out the fat really fast.
I don't believe in Aaron Rodgers. I don't believe that he's going to make it through that season healthy. Like, the offensive line isn't great. The culture in the receiving room isn't fantastic. Like, he got worse defense, worse offensive line, worse receiving room going from the Jets to the Steelers, which I never thought I'd say. Better head coach, of course, and it's also him a year older. So I think Steelers. What about you for a team that you think is out?
Off the rip.
You challenged me asking for the hot take.
I know.
You know, locked and loaded.
Have you not learned by now? I put you in positions that I don't sign up for.
You have to learn me now. I spin it back at you.
Exactly.
What about your thought?
No, I do got that figured out. Jets don't make it.
Yeah, they could. No.
They don't.
It's Justin Fields at quarterback. It's a new head coach. The defense is really good.
If
the
I had a hot
room
take,
is good.
Bengals not making it.
So back-to-back years of no Joe Burrow in the postseason.
Yeah.
Him and Jamar Chase. That one I agree with.
What movement have they made that says we are going to do something a little bit different this year to get back over the hump?
They could possibly lose their best pass rusher. That's a movement they've made. Like, the defense keeps getting worse. They're not paying guys. The draft, they went with a lot of off-ball linebackers and interior offensive linemen.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. The only thing is that they give Jamar Chase a full offseason because he's not going to be holding out and sitting out of practice. But to your point, like, I have the Bengals out. So let's start with talking with the AFC West end. We'll go like the division by division.
Work it through.
Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, all really good teams. And then the Raiders with the revamped defensive line and defense.
Yes.
With a complete overhaul of an offense, but still building around key pieces. But now it's Brock Bowers, Jack Besh, Jacoby Myers. They have Geno Smith, who's a top 12 starting quarterback. They have Ashton Jinty. Exactly. Really good run game.
Yep.
This is, out of all the divisions in the AFC, clearly the most competitive. And yes, I'm saying that knowing that the AFC North exists.
No, I don't work against you on this one for a number of reasons. I think I've done it too many times to count. Been like, finally, the Chiefs, get rid of them. They're not going anywhere, especially when you look at a team that they didn't have the sexiest wins this previous season, right?
Yeah.
And then to add to it, to get back to another Super Bowl, they worked through certain injuries. Their run game was kind of fractured here and there. They had moments where it worked, moments where it didn't.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce's probably coming back with a chip on his shoulder in this, but the basis of it is the fact that they have a top 15 offensive line. They go out and get Josh Simmons in the draft. They come out of the draft with an A- grade of all things. So they had the perfect plug-and-play approach, and they've signed guys and they've kept guys that can put them right back in contention. So I'm tired of working against the Chiefs.
It's also they address the offensive line by signing Jalen Moore. Unproven as a left tackle, but they evaluate him. He can do that. Kingsley Suamataia, who didn't work out, they could kick him inside. They drafted Josh Simmons. If his knee is good to go, he could play left tackle, and maybe they swing Jalen Moore to the right side. They just have to eat that Jawan Taylor contract. Defensive line, they got deeper. Receiving room, they got better, drafting a Jalen Royals who can feast in that offense.
Even secondary, they got deeper.
Secondary got better, and they have number 15 at quarterback.
Right.
And, like, that's where it starts, where It's a Tom Brady effect where, okay, you could go, yeah, I only see them winning. What are you going to say, though? 9 games? But because of Mahomes, they're good for 11, 12 wins every year.
Regardless.
It was a Tom Brady effect here in New England that's happening in Kansas City. I think the Chiefs end up winning this division again. This was a team. You said how ugly they won last year. They had 15 wins in the regular season.
Right.
The Chargers improved. The Broncos got even better on a stud defense. This is the competitive, and this to me is a 3-bid division, but I still have the Chiefs winning this. You have the Chiefs still winning the AFC as well, AFC West?
Yes, but what I'm intrigued to see is what happens with the Chargers. Year 2 under Harbaugh,
Yeah.
and they really came out with a splash. I think if there was a team that surprised us almost the most of like top 5 teams in the NFL, they're very much up there. It's just kind of seeing what the balance is going to be in terms of like how heavily they rely on the run game again, and then where Herbert comes into the mix. But they added some key pieces too, where again, plug and play. They didn't have to do too much.
Yeah.
So I think they have a good jump off point to build off the success they found last season. This sounds crazy. I don't want to overlook the Broncos. Best offensive line in the NFL. We saw Bo Nix solidify who he's going to be in the NFL,
Yeah.
and we know that he can very much build off of that. Then you've got a solid run game. You've got receivers that you can air out to. You've got so many components on there, and then a defense that really impressed in a number of ways also. So another team drafted very well, just coming out of the previous season where they're severely underestimated. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they take another jump to kind of contend with the top of the AFC West.
Yeah, it's that Broncos defense, how good they are. And then they draft a guy like Jahdae Barron. Like, when he falls to them and they already have Pat Surtain II, a good D-line. That was such an elite defense playing man, just ruining everyone's day. Bo Nix or Sean Payton's a perfect marriage of a quarterback and play caller. This Broncos team can really challenge this division. And this is a team, how they're built with Sean Payton as head coach. To me, it was the Chiefs, then the Chargers in that division. The Broncos can go blow past them. And then also that puts the Chargers in a bind of their team more on the bubble in making the postseason as well.
Other reason why I'd bump up the Broncos too is that you're just talking about the coaching genius of Peyton, wielding a Bo Nix, and then of course you got Andy Reid wielding a Patrick Mahomes. So like to see what those kind of like chess matches can look like for football is wild coming up for them.
And Courtland Sutton played well at the end of last year. They had Marvin Mims. They drafted a Pat Bryant. Like they added an Evan Ingram, who in this offense, how he could be used.
Yep.
It's Sean Payton going out and just getting more playmakers for Bo Nix. I like that division is really, really going to be competitive all season long. It's going to feel like playoff games, especially when the Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos all match up. AFC East, to me, it's Buffalo Bills still. I'm optimistic about the Patriots. I have them making the playoffs. I'll get to where they fall. Obviously, be a wild card team there.
Right.
But the Bills getting a really deep defensive line all through the draft. Josh Allen just being Josh Allen and being Superman. They bring back Joe Brady.
Maturing season by season, too.
Yeah.
He needs credit for that.
100%.
Yeah.
It's a weakness of this division, and it's the skill set and the talent of Josh Allen. I think the Bills still win the AFC East.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there's a couple of teams that we can kind of correlate to that whole getting close but no cigar, and them getting tired of that being the theme of their season. So that's why I don't want to discount the Bills either. I'm putting them right there. Also, going back to the maturity of Josh Allen, knowing when to take the risky play, knowing when not to take the risky play, knowing that he can make the play happen if in a pickle and need be. But then also, I think that they've just kind of packed this lineup perfectly to him. It's one of those situations where if you get out strategized again, if you make coaching fails yet again, like this is the last leg. This is the last opportunity for this coaching staff to muck it up. So I feel like the Bills have to come out and do an absolute prove-it year this time.
It sounds crazy to say how far they made it, but this still feels like to me as Sean McDermott coaching for his job in a way. If they keep getting close and keep knocking, whether it's an AFC Championship game, whether it's an AFC Championship game, if you keep losing to Baltimore or Kansas City, and if they just don't break through and get to a Super Bowl, eventually it goes, the talent's there, but there's something where you're getting out-coached. So that just continues to light a fire for Sean McDermott to get it done. So then AFC North, this is, again, a competitive division. You have the Bengals missing the postseason.
Right.
I may be down on the Steelers, but still the Steelers and Mike Tomlin. And who knows what you get with Aaron Rodgers. This is such a competitive division. It's so good. Do you think it's Baltimore that repeats?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, like I said, a handful of teams that are just like, we can't keep talking about you guys in the same way. Oh, you get so close. Oh, this is finally your year. And then all the heat that Lamar Jackson has to take in terms of his talent and capability of leading this team to the promised land. So I've got the Ravens, another team stout when it comes to their offensive line. But I think you and I actually had this conversation beforehand in terms of pieces that have been added in for Lamar Jackson to kind of help him out. And it's not going to always rely on, okay, can Mark Andrews be the tight end to make it happen? I mean, he's been dealing with a slew of injuries over the past season to chew also. So I feel like it's the Ravens' time to finally, make it happen or go away. I'm not going to discount the Steelers just because defense, especially if they do end up keeping a TJ Watt. And I know it's not always that simple, but with the Steelers, it kind of has been. TJ Watt is the heartbeat of that entire defense. When he's in, he's a one-man wrecking crew and can make magic freaking happen. When he's not in, they kind of fall apart, but they try to play for him and on his behalf. You never know what you're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers. There was a lot of hype and positivity around what he could do with the Jets when that whole move happened and he came back and he was healthy, and we didn't expect that fall apart. We didn't expect the amount of interceptions that he was throwing because it was uncharacteristic to the Aaron Rodgers that we have typically seen. So I don't know what to make of Aaron Rodgers aside from the fact that I'm tired of talking about what's going to be his career, but I won't discount the Steelers because of that. And then again, it comes back to coaching. Sometimes when you've got a really brilliant coach at the helm, he can make things happen. Who thought that George Pickens was going to be the guy to actually finally stretch the field, never knowing who his freaking quarterback was going to be? So this is a team that just happens to make things happen. I already said my thing on the Bengals. We don't know what's going to make of it. They outscored their opponents last year, and then defense allowed the team to get back into the game because they couldn't keep them off of the board. So Bengals and Browns sit at the bottom for me. Ravens, Steelers sit at the top.
It's a Steelers team that I just think between like TJ Watt, he wants an extension. Both sides want to come to an agreement, but he's holding out in a way right now. They're going through those negotiations. It's welcoming in the distraction that is Aaron Rodgers.
Will he be a complete cancer?
Exactly. And can he just tear apart and fracture that locker room? I have the Steelers completely missing the playoffs. I have the Bengals skin of their teeth type deal to make it in. I don't have the most confidence in picking them. I don't get to how competitive that wild card game can be. And I hate that I'm being boring here, but just as the Chiefs, Bills, and Ravens won last year, I think it's going to be those three winning their division again. Again, I think it's a Ravens. I don't believe in the Steelers. Don't believe in the Bengals because of how bad that defense is.
Yeah.
It's amazing what that ownership group does to wasting away at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. And obviously, I'm not even going to entertain the Browns in any way of talking postseason.
What are the Browns right now? I mean, what have the Browns been? Actually,
The Browns.
No, that's a long conversation.
The Browns are the Browns.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Perfectly.
What about for the AFC South? Do you think would we see back-to-back division winners repeating as champions? Do you think it's the Texans again winning the division, the AFC South? That is a division that's weak,
to be.
But interesting, competitive. Okay.
Yeah, no, you put it perfectly. It is interestingly competitive because there were certain games where the Titans, everybody was going in, and if you were a gambler and you're looking at lines and stuff like that, you had these massive spreads that immediately counted out the Titans, and then they come in and keep it within like 3 or 10 or 7. Defense had some moments. Still a dumpster fire. Jacksonville, I don't know what to make of them because of everything they went through last season. And some of their key components for them doing anything well are coming off of pretty big injuries, needed a massive offseason. You can't really build around that. Colts were my biggest surprise when it came to AFC South last year. And it was just the fact that they need to figure out their identity at quarterback, and they need to just kind of settle in. It just felt like they never settled in. It's so chaotic in terms of who was going to do what and when. Houston Texans for me.
I think, and this is probably, I was saving my hot take for this one. With how competitive this division is, because the Colts, I mean, I'm reading that Daniel Jones is a front runner. I'm not going to buy into it. It's passing camp.
That's what I mean. No settling in.
But Anthony Richardson keeps getting better. The Titans, I really like their offseason, and I really like the addition of Cam Ward. But with the Jaguars, I'm still a believer in Trevor Lawrence. They address the offensive line. Brian Thomas Jr. is going to have his sophomore season. He was a great downfield target for Trevor Lawrence, who took a leap. They have Travis Hunter now for the money downs, third down, fourth down, red zone, red area, goal line, all of that to add to it. And he helps out the back end of this defense. I think the AFC South is actually going to be very competitive, but I'm going to go with the Jaguars to win it. It's what Liam Cohn does as an offensive play caller, as an offensive-minded head coach.
Saw it.
A guy that comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree. Look what he did in Tampa for his one season leading Baker, kept him being a Pro Bowl caliber guy, and a team that continued to put out and just be one of the most competitive teams. And on the cusp of playoffs or making it to the playoffs, like always Tampa being in that spot. I think the Jaguars end up winning this. The Texans are relying on a lot of youth at key positions. Tank Dell's not going to be ready. What does Jalen Noel bring in? Jaden Higgins will be opposite Nico Collins, and that's fine. Arante Ursary, that's a guy that I'm still mixed on whether he should play or not as a rookie. They traded away Laramie Tunsil, who didn't fit in, may not be loved in that locker room or by that front office in that franchise, was a really good offensive tackle. And they're bringing in a new offensive coordinator, too.
Right.
A lot of moving parts with Houston, and now Jacksonville is all new as well. Wide receiver 2, head coach, and all that. I just like that it's Trevor Lawrence, if he can stay healthy, and he continues to get a good receiving room, I actually like the Jaguars to win this division.
I don't hate that, actually, because I definitely didn't have the Colts at 2. My hot take is that UF doesn't breed quarterbacks, and I stand by that till the day that I die. So I can bump down the Colts easily, like I said, with the Jaguars, and I'm rooting for Trevor Lawrence. We didn't expect this kind of downfall and decline that they had this previous season, and injuries was a big theme around all of that. I think that there's a really good blend on the Texans' defense. And I feel like, if anything, the defense will be able to keep a lot of things very close, be more disruptive, and be able to help the offense kind of catch up to them. That's probably going to be their identity while they get things figured out on the offensive side of the ball. Defense leading the tone, offense trying to catch up. But C.J. Stroud, considering what I need to see out of him this year and what the team is going to, how they're going to want to support him after he kept his chin up high playing behind that offensive line that he just did, I feel like they can be competitive again.
Yeah, they're right there. It's right there. I think they can make it back. And the defense, I think, is a great part to point out, because the Texans, all talks about the offense. Still Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr., it's Derek Stingley in the secondary. They can play man defense. They can get after the quarterback, led by DeMeco Ryans, who continues to be a good head coach. They can take a leap. All right, so we talked division winners. Who do you think ends up being the wild card teams, the 3 wild card teams that make the playoffs in the AFC?
Ooh.
For me, I have to go Patriots. And it's part of, and shout out to the people that, leave comments, watch us on Foxboro Rush.
Absolutely.
They come at me with 11 wins. They go, you really have this upside? I think the Patriots are a wild card team. Whatever the number of wins will be, the defense is vastly improved. The coaching staff's improved. The offense is so much better. I think Drake Maye takes a leap. It's Josh McDaniels. The receiving room's better, whether we love it or not, how it looks. It is all better. Everything's better. This is a team with one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. The lack of facing elite quarterbacks. They played Burrow, Allen twice, and Lamar. But outside of that, there's no elite quarterbacks. They're playing rookie after rookie after rookie at certain points in the season. I think I'm going to start with the Patriots as one of the wild card teams. And then beyond that, I go with the Broncos making the wild card. And then finally, I do have squeaking in, and maybe it's just my football fandom wanting to see it, but Joe Burrow and the Bengals get in. So I have the Chargers, and I have the Steelers out of the playoffs. Chargers regressing in the next year with Jim Harbaugh.
Chargers and Steelers out. Okay, I'm in full support of the Patriots because of what I think that this defense can and will be. I feel like there's not a bunch of hype around this. I feel like they are going to be able to shut down a number of their opponents. And I don't mean shut down as in keep points off the board, but those close margins, I feel like they're going to be the degree of separation there. While this offense starts to get situated, because I think it's going to take time behind this offensive line. I'm not all the way there on them. You said...
So I went Patriots, Bengals, and then I went Broncos for making my wild card.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Steelers over the Bengals. I don't trust what's going on. And I
get it.
I hate to go against Joe Burrow. Love the guy.
I hate how much that franchise is wasting him.
Yeah, and it's just, there's a lot of drama going on over there. I'm not here for it. And then, I'm fully on board when it comes to the Broncos. Count me in. I think that the Broncos are going to make some noise.
Foxboro Rush is a Patriots podcast. Maybe unofficial Broncos podcast. We'll plant that flag.
Yeah,
can
they be like little brother?
Yes.
Oh, there we go.
We'll do always, at least it's in the AFC. It's staying in the AFC.
Right.
And that's a team that could dethrone Patrick Mahomes, which Patriots fans would be on board with.
I'm so here for.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're doing a slight pitch here and a little pivot, but it's always Patriots. We're coming up. We'll take another break on Foxboro Rush. When we're back, we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers. And this is pretty likely his last season. That's how he's putting it. Find out that and more. We'll talk Aaron Rodgers overall coming up after the break on Foxboro Rush. Foxboro Rush. All right, Case, so we talked plenty about playoff picture. The reason we have the Steelers getting the playoffs is because of Aaron Rodgers. Well, you do, I don't. But it could still happen. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying.
I was like, let's not oversell it just in case. But then again, I'm that person that obnoxious enough that if it does happen, I'll be walking in the office
victory
like,
lap.
George.
That's fine. Yeah. That is fine. 100%. Do that because I would do the same. Well, if he does, it would be a cool way for Aaron Rodgers to go out because he shared on the Pat McAfee show, as you see the tweet on your screen from Adam Schefter, Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers told the Pat McAfee show that he's, quote, pretty sure this is it, end quote, the last season of his NFL career. Rodgers said it is why he signed a one-year deal in Pittsburgh. Multiple layers to this. We'll get to it all. Pretty sure this is it. That is the most Aaron Rodgers retirement announcement
literally
Aaron Rodgers could do because it's all about him and it's all about attention. Also, that's why he signed a one-year deal with Pittsburgh. The Steelers probably offered a one-year deal at best because you are banged up, You ran the Jets into the ground. You got a coach fired again, just like you almost ran the Packers into the ground and didn't almost get a coach fired. The Packers are committed to Matt LaFleur.
Thankfully.
But just run your way out of Green Bay, run your way out of New York, and that was an utter failure, even when he was healthy and playing with Devontae Adams. Steelers gave you a one-year deal because you have to prove you are worth a quarterback worth committing to. This is Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Wants to sound like the smartest guy in the room, wants to sound like he knows everything, wants to always sound like he's in control. That's fine. People do want to come off that way. That's fine. Everyone would like to. The pretty sure it's my last season. Most Rodgers thing, because also every time he goes on McAfee, every week during the season, whether he's throwing 3 touchdowns, whether he's throwing 3 interceptions, there's going to be a question. So you make a decision. He said, pretty sure. Are you going to retire or not? Hey, man, you're looking good. I think you should play another season. And he'll do something. They'll overreact. They'll party. They'll go crazy. And it's the Rodgers cycle. It's
Broadway. It's theater.
Yeah.
It is theatrics.
Whatever the
best.
theater is in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's like an old mining shaft that they do Broadway shows.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you said it. He always wants to sound and look like he is in control. But more importantly, he is the guy that walks into the room and thinks that he's already got the mental move over everybody around him.
Yeah.
Because there's so many hypocritical and contradictory statements that he says on Pat McAfee. I mean, why he continues to go back on and know that he's going to say the opposite of what he just said the week before is confusing. But again, theatrics. So it's not. I mean, would I be surprised if he retires? No. And what I actually think would be leading to his retirement isn't the fact that he's ready to hang it up. He feels like he's done his best. None of the above. It's the fact that everything that translated out of the Jets situation, it's more than calling him a cancer. It's the fact that franchises are concerned about how he's going to impact the club and the fact that he wants to come in with a voice. I mean, look at the shuffle that went around in terms of like where was he going to end up next. It wasn't because he had these endless options to choose from or teams really bargaining for him. It was like we wouldn't mind it and we could do it too. There was 2 teams potentially in the hunt to pick up Aaron Rodgers, and at the end of the day, I feel like he had to sell himself more to the Steelers, and the Steelers had to sell their positioning to him.
100%.
It's just always a mind game with the guy.
I'm still shocked they went with him, but it's at the point of they've been so middling. They haven't been able to get anything done with the quarterback position that you do take a gamble on him because it's also a way of, like any gamble, there's a ceiling, there's a floor. There's if it works out or it doesn't. If it works out with him and he's good, then it is his defense led by TJ Watt. It is his wide receiving room that you just added DK Metcalf to. You gave up a 2nd-round pick for. It's all of that working out. And it's getting into the postseason and also winning postseason games. Like, that hasn't happened for quite some time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they've been good. They've been caught in quarterback purgatory. It was Ben Roethlisberger was great, got washed up. They were stuck with the contract. Then it was Kenny Pickett. It was Mason Rudolph. It was Russell Wilson. It's what we saw last season. They've been stuck. If this works out, great. You make a playoff run. You get relevant again. And maybe there's something in Rodgers where that lights a fire and he comes back for another season. If it doesn't, great. You bottom out, you get a high draft pick, and then you get a quarterback. Maybe Mike Tomlin gets fired, which wouldn't be the worst thing for him. Because he's been there so long, but it's at the point of like, okay, you can keep going 9-8. Yeah, and I think it would be best thing for him again. With Rodgers, it's just what I saw with him in New York. He's old. He aged quick. Like everyone always goes, in football, you can play longer.
You think it was aging versus coming back from that injury?
It was both. And like that leads into the aging, coming back from the Achilles. But he can't move the way he usually does. That offensive line for the Jets wasn't doing him any favors.
Right.
But the offensive line for the Steelers isn't anything fantastic either.
True.
The receiving room is a step worse than it is with the Jets as well. He's at the age. He's still very talented when he's healthy, when he's on time with his plays and his throws. Like everything's going well. There's just so much that has to go right compared to the Aaron Rodgers that we grew up watching.
Yeah.
Freelancing, moving the pocket, getting outside the pocket, throwing on the run, buying time, and somehow completing Hail Mary after Hail Mary. Never made sense. That's not the same guy. Still talented, still has arm strength, still super accurate, but he needs a lot more support. I don't think the Steelers team has it. I think he does retire after the season. I think he loves keeping to do this stuff. He'll maybe go the Brett Favre route too, make it really murky of a retirement. And shoot, maybe comes back after. I don't buy anything he's selling it. That's really what it is for me.
See, I do agree with the murky retirement. That's why I'm kind of on the fence whether or not he's really going to retire, or is he going to be jumping through a few other teams first before he's like, well, I'm finally done with it, and like I didn't quit on the game quit on me kind of crap. But again, not a fan of the theatrics, don't care for the drama. I do feel like to a degree the injury played into a lot of, again, the uncharacteristic things that we saw out of Aaron Rodgers, because some of the decent moments that the Jets had, the excitement was there. Like, holy crap, this is Aaron Rodgers doing what we expect Aaron Rodgers to do. Does he have the same pieces over at the Steelers? Not exactly, but something that DK Metcalf had to work on was kind of like the revitalization, the revamping of a quarterback in Geno Smith. He kind of had to have that tandem with him to help him bring his career back to par. And I feel like if this is a big if some of the divitude can be pushed aside for Aaron Rodgers, and if he wants to put himself in a position to control the narrative a little bit more, then he's going to find a way to be in sync with a guy like that and make certain plays happen and not be as hesitant or not take as many sacks. And he's definitely going to come into this season like, I got to cut down on those interceptions because that's never been my game. So I feel like there's a degree of like, you got to, I mean, he's arrogant and confident for a reason. He's going to try to lean back on some of that, and you have to separate it between what the injury hindered him from and like what he mentally hindered himself from.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so when Ovi was going and breaking records, and after he broke the all-time goals record, right, we spoke about, is this his last season? I go, I think it would be. He's played so long, there's nothing left to accomplish, including winning, right?
Yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers wins a Super Bowl, is that one a no? If he wins Super Bowl with the Steelers this year, is that what he goes out on? Or do you think for him, he comes back and he gets paid and he goes, all right, I can do it again. I can get 3.
Nah,
three
he flies
different.
into the sun. If
You
he
think
wins a
if he wins Super Bowl, you think that's it for him?
Yeah, he takes flight. He's out. Again, it's all about controlling the narrative. And what's one of the biggest narratives around Aaron Rodgers?
He doesn't win in the big games.
What's the other narrative around Aaron Rodgers? It's the fact that he's always trying to put on this, I don't care what anybody thinks, but he always wants to have the most polished look in the game. You know what I mean? Like, that's also a conversation that takes place, again, not diving too much into the drama, but like with his family and stuff. They just talk about the fact that like, this is somebody that struggles to look imperfect to the public eye, and that's why he pretends like either he doesn't care or he actually is perfect and everybody else is just slow to realize. So you win a Super Bowl, that's perfection. He's out.
He would totally retire.
Totally
It'd be perfect. He goes out, maybe he goes into like a media blackout too. Only appearing on McAfee from his like retirement, like
from a
abode.
Tent.
Yes, exactly.
I see a tent, not a boat. I see him, a tent, very little light. Yeah, we don't know.
He'll find a way to have Wi-Fi though to appear on McAfee.
Exactly.
If he wins the Super Bowl, I think he rides out like a Peyton Manning, like we've seen a John Elway do. I focus more on the Peyton Manning, where Peyton made it to a Super Bowl with the Broncos and lost to the Seahawks, and he was fantastic that year. When he got back and they won it, he was not Peyton Manning by any means. It was that defense that won it for them. The body can only handle so much football, only has so much left. If he wins the Super Bowl, I think he retires. Even if they make a deep playoff.
What if he loses? Oh, okay. I was going to change the narrative.
No, it's a great question to ask. Because again, even if he gets there and he gets close and comes up short, I really do think no matter what for him, I do think this is it. Unless, got to go caveat and give myself an out here. Unless the Steelers somehow come back and go, here's a 2-year deal. Here's a lot of money. We'll keep paying you. Yeah. Because as much, again, as the guy acts like he doesn't care what anyone thinks, and he tries to be so laissez-faire about everything, like the money matters to him.
Oh, yeah.
And I get it too when you're playing a brutal game. Like, get paid and keep getting paid as long as people pay you handsomely.
Right.
But that's what matters to him. And again, it's what started this combo. This is why I signed a 1-year deal with the Steelers, because I wasn't sure if I'm going to play past this year. No, you wanted to go to the Vikings.
Right. And they rejected you.
Wisely so. They went with J.J. McCarthy. You got a 1-year deal because the Steelers don't trust you past the season.
Yep.
And that's a right move for them.
Exactly. I think all of this is just retaliation to rejection. Like, he just has that air about him, like, who's going to reject me? And when it happens is when we see all of this theatrics that just kind of has become Aaron Rodgers. But I couldn't agree more. If by some miracle he does enough with the Steelers, they do make the postseason. I think if they make the postseason and the Steelers are like, okay, look, we need to take a breather on this whole quarterback carousel that we've had going on over here. Let's offer him 2 years. Let's have a little bit of a contingency plan in there.
Have an out in year 2.
Exactly. They are not breaking up.
That'd be interesting.
Wouldn't it?
It should be signing up for multiple years of Aaron Rodgers. The one thing we get in all this, if this is his last season, Steelers host the Patriots week 3. It's Aaron Rodgers against Drake Maye. It's a Patriots against the Steelers, 2 franchises that are so cool that every time they match up, whether postseason or regular season, at least we get that.
Yeah,
at least
true.
I believe he'll be healthy at that point, and at least we get a Drake Maye, Aaron Rodgers matchup. Mike Vrabel against Mike Tomlin. That should be a good game.
I love that. But imagine if it's our defense that retires Aaron Rodgers. Like, I just talked about him cleaning up interceptions and all these other things. Yeah. But if it's the Patriots, I mean, what is it, September 21st? If it's the Patriots that can really get under his skin, that gives us a highlight outside of him controlling what he tries to control. Like, that's what I would love to see.
I like this note that our producer Trevor added at the end. Does the NFL even do retirement tours? It would be a bittersweet one with Aaron Rodgers. And when I think of retirement tours, I think of Mariano Rivera and David Ortiz.
Okay.
And there's Derek Jeters too, but mainly Rivera and Ortiz. Like when Ortiz is playing his last series in the Bronx at Yankee Stadium, they're giving him something in his honor. When Mariano Rivera is playing at Fenway, he got the broken bats thrown, like built out of bats that he's broken with his slider.
I love that.
For Rodgers, and he does have his old division on his schedule, but like what will the reception be? Because this is a guy that has rubbed so many franchises the wrong way, has run so many franchises into the ground, is respected around the league and a beloved teammate. But it'll be weird because at that point, it's him with the Steelers. And again, with this, pretty sure it's it. You don't get the tour if you're pretty sure. If you announce it, you stick by it, and it's actually your last season.
That's where I was going. I was like, he needs to be completely on board with what his next chapter looks like, sounds like, make the announcement, and then sure, maybe a little bit of a revenge tour. But if we're still doing this give and take about like, oh, I'm just deciding as I go, and I'm going to go meditate on it in the forest, and I'll get back to everybody knowing darn well the decision has been made, then no. And plus, I mean, he's how many years removed from the whole Green Bay situation? I didn't even love his exit there. So like you said, I mean, the beloved look to him has died down pretty severely in my book.
What is interesting, I need to check it really quick, but the Steelers do play the Packers. I forget if it's home or away. They're home against Green Bay, they're at Detroit, and they're home against the Vikings. If he was to get like that retirement ceremony goodbye tour, the one in Green Bay, his final game in Lambeau Field, that would have been electric. With all the schedule making the NFL does, they should have put that game, especially October game in Green Bay. That would have been perfect.
I think they're leaning
Packers.
away from a retirement tour if possible
Packers,
or discussed.
the Packers as a franchise are really happy they don't have to even think about that.
They got Jordan Love and all of the fun going on.
I'm a big Jordan
there.
Love fan. I'm all for that. They don't have to even do the awkwardness of honoring an Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
He's pretty sure he's going to retire. We'll see if he does. We'll take another break here on Foxboro Rush. When we're back, we'll end with a mailbag we got for you guys. Stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Foxboro Rush. George Balekji, Kasey Hudson. All right, we'll get to the mailbag we got for you guys. By the way, head to our YouTube page. Head to Nesson's YouTube page. Type in Foxboro Rush. Leave a thumbs up for Nesson's YouTube. Subscribe. And go to the videos. All right, this is when you leave a thumbs up. I'm going out of order on YouTube.
I'm just miming it over
here.
here.
Give a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Leave a comment.
Leave
do
a
some
comment.
typing.
There you go.
Leave a comment. We'll bring it in for the mailbag. We always like to end Foxboro Rush with. So let's start with David Contour, 5346. I like the roster they've assembled and the coaching staff. My concern is a bunch of players playing together for the first time. One-word answer, Commanders. The Washington Commanders.
Okay.
That was a huge turnover of a roster. I get it.
Big time.
And when you have a bunch of players playing together for the first time, but it's, again, why I like the ads they made, where these guys fit the system, and the scheme will get the most out of them.
It's
a 5 offensive linemen that need to work together. The defensive linemen all complement one another, especially as pass rushers. Carlton Davis, opposite of a Christian Gonzalez, 2 man-up corners, really long, really athletic. Safeties are bringing back, wide receivers, some familiar faces. I get it where you go, I like the roster, I like the coaching staff, but it's a lot of new faces. It was the Commanders, it was the Texans under new head coaches or first-year guys in the spot they're in.
Yep.
And that's where, again, we've seen it done time and time again in the NFL. I don't think the Patriots will be one that breaks that trend. I think they'll be successful even with all the new faces.
Yeah, and 6 years ago, it was actually Tampa Bay also. So, I mean, honestly, to stack onto everything you just said, a new system is being implemented. It's going to be a reacclimatization for some of these players, but the bottom line is if the buy-in is there on the system, if everybody gets on the same page for the system, then new faces aren't going to matter because the chemistry is going to blossom from everybody being on the same page for getting the job done football-wise. All
right, I like this one. Caleb Tinsley. Am I crazy for thinking the Pats go undefeated at home?
Let's see if you're crazy.
Raiders, I have a win. Steelers, I have a win. Carolina Panthers, I have a win. Then it's 3 straight on the road. Home against the Browns, home against Atlanta, home against the Jets, then the Giants, bye week, home against the Bills late in the season, host Miami late in the season. You're not crazy to think this. If you believe in Mike Vrabel coming off a bye can beat Sean McDermott, which I believe in. This may sound crazy. That Atlanta Falcons game, I almost said Hawks, Atlanta Falcons game, November 2nd, that is such a sneaky gotcha
Questionable.
game.
Yeah.
That's the one at home that gives me the biggest red flag. Especially you're coming off facing the Saints, Titans, Browns. That'll be 3 straight rookie quarterbacks. Could be riding a little high, a little arrogant. This Falcons offense with Michael Penix now, with a defense that has a revamped defensive line and pass rush and is a good defense relative aside from getting to the quarterback, that Falcons game, and then as it always will be, Josh Allen, those are the two that worry me. But to answer it, Caleb, I don't think you're crazy at all. And that's nuts that I'm saying that, but that's how good this schedule falls and how good the team will be.
Yeah, the scale of crazy really isn't all that far-fetched for me either, because you're talking about Bills late in the season in December. What do we know? They like to rest their starters, and typically the Patriots have the Bills' numbers on the end of the season because of those calls. I will lean with you when it comes to the Falcons. I just feel like it's kind of a toss-up in terms of what you're going to get. And then I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I don't say possibly potentially the Steelers, because, again, if it's the one-man wrecking crew, if it's this defense that tends to make everybody uncomfortable, if Rodgers, whatever, that can be another kind of like coin toss for me. So potentially 3 losses or 2 losses at home between the Falcons and the Steelers. I think they can snag the Bills.
All right, next one, RPB, Pool Guy 50. No one's talking about Pool Guy.
Pool Guy.
He must be busy right now.
The Pool Guy.
No one talks about Doug Marrone. This guy's a stud with offensive lines and Scar Consulting. Yeah.
Actually, you did talk about Doug
I did,
Marrone.
yes. So actually, this is perfect. I don't look at the mailbag before we get on. I do like to just like the raw react to it. We spoke about Doug Marrone, but you're right. That's again, there's so many offseason moves for the Patriots. Stuff is going to be going under the radar, not spoken about. Doug Marrone absolutely is such a major add, along with having a guy with all his experience, but 2 other assistant offensive line coaches have a lot of experience as well coaching that room. This is something they need to get right. And someone like Doug Marrone, been doing it for a long time, passes it down to a Jason Hutangling, who maybe takes over as a long-time offensive coach too. That's what you want.
100%. I won't even try to add to it because you put it beautifully earlier here on Foxboro Rush, and you added to it beautifully here for the Pool Guy. Why do I keep thinking of the plumber?
I'm going to go hang out with him. Pool Guy's plumber. It's water. There's water there. You need a good plumber if you want a pool. Last one quick. Let's win at least 5 games before assuming the playoffs. Yeah, not bad. That's Foxboro Rush. Kasey Hudson, Georgia Balekji. We'll see you guys. New episode Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. on SN Nation. See you guys then.